Book of Heaven, Volume 11. The 21st of September to the 27th of November 1913. Page 66 to 71. September 21, 1913. All things done with Jesus in his divine will become his own, with his same qualities, the same life, and the same creative power. This morning my always adorable Jesus made himself seen with unspeakable sweetness and affability, as if he wanted to tell me something very dear to him and very surprising for me. So, hugging me and pressing me to his heart, he told me, "My beloved daughter, all the things that the soul does in my will and together with me, prayers, actions, steps, etc., acquire my same qualities, the same life and the same value. See, all the things that I did upon earth, prayers, sufferings, works, are all in action, and will remain in eternity for the good of whoever wants them. My work differs from the work of the creatures. Containing within myself the creative power, I speak and I create, just as one day I spoke and created the sun. It is as if this sun, which is always full of light and heat that never decreases, remained in the act of receiving continuous creation from me. Such was my work on earth. Since I contain the creative power within me, the prayers, the steps, the works which I did, and the blood which I shed remain in continuous act of praying, working, walking, etc., just as the sun is in continuous act of giving light. Therefore, my prayers continue, my steps are always in the act of running after souls, and so on with the rest. Otherwise, what would be the great difference between my work and the work of my saints? Now, my daughter, listen to a beautiful, beautiful thing, not yet understood by creatures. All the things that the soul does together with me and in my will are like my own things, and they remain as her own. The connection of my will and the work done together with me participate in my same creative power. I remained ecstatic, with a joy that I could not contain, and I said, "Is all this possible, O Jesus?" And he, "Whoever does not understand this can say that he does not know me." And he disappeared. But I cannot say it well, and I don't know how to explain myself better. Who can tell all that he made me understand? Rather, it seems to me that I've just said nonsense. September 25, 1913. The divine will, not the Holy Eucharist, is the center and the life of the soul. The divine will gives life to the sacraments and encloses them within itself. I had told my confessor that Jesus had said to me that the will of God is the center of the soul, that this center is in the depth of the soul, and that, spreading its rays like the sun, it gives light to the mind, sanctity to the actions, strength to the steps, life to the heart, power to the word and to everything, and not only this, but also that while this center, the will of God, is inside of us, so that we may never escape from it, and so as to remain at our continuous disposal, never leaving us alone or separated even for a minute. At the same time, it is also in front of us, on our right, on our left, behind and everywhere, and it will be our center also in heaven. The confessor was saying, instead, that the Most Holy Eucharist is our center. Now, blessed Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, I had to do in such a way that sanctity might be easy and accessible to all, unless they did not want it, in all conditions, in all circumstances and in every place." It is true that the Most Holy Eucharist is center, but who instituted it? Who constrained my humanity so that it might be enclosed within the little circle of a host? Wasn't that my will? My will always have primacy over everything. Further, if everything is in the Eucharist, the priests who call me from heaven into their hands, and who are in contact with my sacramental flesh more than anyone should be the most saintly and the most good. Instead, many are the worst. Poor me, how they treat me in the Holy Eucharist. And the many souls who receive me, perhaps every day, should be many saints if the center of the Eucharist were sufficient. Instead, and it makes one want to cry, they remain always at the same point. Vain, irascible, punctilious, etc. Poor center of the Most Holy Eucharist, how dishonored it remains. On the other hand, there might be a mother who does my will and cannot receive me every day because of her conditions, not because she doesn't want to. She is patient, charitable, and carries the fragrance of my Eucharistic virtues within herself. Ah, is it perhaps the sacrament or, rather, my will to which she is submitted, that keeps her subdued and compensates for the most holy sacrament? Even more, I tell you that the sacraments themselves produce fruits depending on how the souls are submitted to my will. They produce effects according to the connection that the souls have with my volition. And if there's no link with my will, they may receive communion, but they will remain on an empty stomach. They may go to confession, but remain still dirty. They may come before my sacramental presence, but if our wills do not meet, I will be as if dead for them, because my will produces all the goods and gives life even to the sacraments only in the soul who submits herself to it. Those who do not understand this are babies in religion. October 2, 1913. When the human will unites to the divine will, the life of Jesus is formed within the soul. Taking the divine will means taking everything. Continuing in my usual state, blessed Jesus made himself seen inside of me, but so much identified with me that I could see his eyes within mine, his mouth within mine, and so on with the rest. While I saw him like this, he said to me, "My daughter, look at how I identify myself with the soul who does my will, making myself one with her. I become her own life, because my will is inside and outside of that soul. One can say that my will is like the air she breathes, which gives life to everything in her, like the light which makes everything seen and understood, like the heat which warms, fecundates and makes one grow, like the heart that palpitates, like the hands that work, like the feet that walk. When the human will unites itself to my volition, my life is formed in the soul." Then, having received communion, I was saying to Jesus, "I love you," and he told me, "My daughter, do you really want to love me? Say, Jesus, I love you with your will. And since my will fills heaven and earth, your love will surround me everywhere, and your, I love you, will resound up there in the heavens, and down to the bottom of the abysses. So, if you want to say, I adore you, I bless you, I praise you, I thank you, you will say it united with my will, and you will fill heaven and earth with adorations, benedictions, praises, thanksgiving, in my will. These are simple, easy and immense things. My will is everything, to the extent that my very attributes, what are they? A simple act of my will. Therefore, if justice, goodness, wisdom, fortitude follow their course, my will precedes them, accompanies them, and places them in the act of operating. In sum, they do not move one point from my volition. Therefore, whoever takes my will takes everything. Even more, she can say that her life is ended the weaknesses, the temptations, the passions and the miseries, because all things lose their rights in the one who does my will. My will has primacy over everything, and right to all. November 18, 1913. When the human will and the divine will are opposed, one forms the cross of the other. I was thinking about my poor state, and how even the cross has been banished to me. In my interior, Jesus told me, "My daughter, when two wills are opposed to each other, one forms the cross of the other." So it is between me and the creatures, when their wills are opposed to mine, I form their cross and they form mine. I am the long bar of the cross, while they are the short one, and crossing each other, they form the cross. Now, when the will of the soul unites with mine, the bars remain no longer crossed, but united. Therefore, the cross is no longer a cross. Have you understood? Furthermore, I sanctified the cross. It was not the cross that sanctified me. The cross does not sanctify. Rather, the resignation to my will sanctifies the cross. Therefore, even the cross can do good as long as it is connected with my will. Not only this, the cross sanctifies and crucifies part of the person, while my will does not spare anything. It sanctifies everything, crucifying thoughts, desires, will, affections, heart, everything. Being light, my will shows to the soul the necessity of this sanctification and complete crucifixion, in such a way that she, herself, incites me to accomplish the crafting of my will upon her. Therefore, the cross and the other virtues are content as long as they get something, and if they can pierce the creature with 3 nails, they celebrate triumphantly. Instead, my will, which does not know how to do incomplete works, is not happy with just 3 nails, but with as many nails for as many acts of my will which I dispose for the creature. November 27, 1913. With complete acts in the divine will, the soul forms within herself a son similar to the divine Son. In the divine will the soul becomes a god of the earth. My always adorable Jesus continues to speak about his most holy will. My daughter, as many complete acts of my will as the creature does, so many parts of me does she take into herself. And the more she takes of my will, the more light she acquires, forming the sun within herself. Since this sun is formed by the light which she takes from my will, the rays of this sun are linked with the rays of my divine Son. So, each one is reflected into the other, and they dart through one another, and as they do this, the sun that my will has formed in the soul becomes larger and larger. And I, Jesus, we remain always here, in your will. It seems that you have nothing else to say. And Jesus, my will is the highest point which can exist, both in heaven and on earth. When the soul reaches it, she has conquered everything and she has done everything. She has nothing left to do other than dwell in these heights, enjoy them, and understand more and more my will, which is not yet thoroughly understood, either in heaven or upon earth. You have plenty of time to spend there, since you have understood very little, and much remains for you to understand. My will is so great that whoever does it can call herself a god of the earth. Just as my will forms the beatitude of heaven, these gods who do my will form the beatitude of the earth, and of those who are close to them. There is not a good which exists on earth which is not to be attributed to these gods of my will, either as a direct or as indirect cause. Everything is because of them. Just as there is no happiness in heaven which does not come from me, there is no existing good on earth which does not come from them.